Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to go over Schlage Primus and high security keys, but first, let's rescue this little puppy right here who locked their mommy and daddy owners out of their vehicle. Naughty little puppy, but we were able to go ahead and get him unlocked, no problem. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Schlage Primus patented keyway system here. It is the added complexity to this system that makes it so secure. You can see this is a standard Schlage Classic keyway with only one shear line of pins at the top. 6 pins make up one singular shear line. This is the next grade up. This would be the Schlage Everest 29 keyway. It involves an extra check pin and a different key blank than the standard Schlage SC. However, it doesn't offer anywhere near the complexity as Schlage Primus. Schlage Primus offers a completely separate, independent shear line from the sidebar and the top pins. So we're going to take a look at this cylinder and start pulling it apart by taking the back cam screw off. This cutaway provides an excellent example of how this lock actually works. From this angle, it looks like a conventional pin tumbler lock. However, on this side, you can see how the finger pins engage with the sidebar, and then how the finger pins engage with the side milling that is on the key blank itself. Here we have the sidebar removed, and you have these sidebar springs, very tiny little springs, very easy to lose, so very important to make sure you keep track of all of those. Now, as long as the key blank stays inserted, the finger pins will stay in place. If you need to change the finger pin arrangement, you will have to remove the key blank slowly, one by one, and release each one of the pins and springs for the finger pins, as you can see here. When you're reloading and rebuilding the cylinder, you want to put the spring in first and then put the finger pin in second, and go ahead and install the key to hold and trap it in place. You can see how these tiny little parts make this such an ultra complex lock. Here you can see the underside of one of those finger pins, and you can see how the finger pins engage with the sidebar itself. This is a demo model, so you can actually see that they have the sidebar and a finger pin encased in acrylic, so you can understand how the system works. When rebuilding this cutaway lock cylinder, you'll have to trap one of the top pins, just like you would rebuilding a conventional cylinder, using the follower and a set of tweezers. Here we've got the plug fully removed and all of the parts taken out of the plug as well. It's been fully field stripped. Primus is very proud of their lock, so you will always recognize the big Primus stamped right on the face of the lock cylinder. Here we have the housing or the Bible of the lock completely stripped and field stripped as well, so we can begin servicing this lock and putting it back together. And you can see all of those tiny little parts on the pinning tray here. Beginning to rebuild the cylinder, start with the top spring and the follower and rebuild as you would a conventional lock. As far as the finger pins go, those get rebuilt through the cylinder itself, as you can see here. Now let's watch the whole thing from start to finish. Alrighty, we are going to be taking a look at this really awesome cutaway Schlage Primus lock. We're actually going to see how this thing comes apart, what makes it tick, and all of the moving parts and pieces inside here. This is an ultra complex lock that has a significant amount of moving parts when compared to the average pin tumbler lock. First of all, we go ahead and undo the Phillips head screw that holds on the tailpiece or the drive cam. Then we insert the key, rotate 90 degrees, making sure that the cutaway portion does not go towards the top where the pins are. Then we pull out the sidebar. This is what makes it more complex than a typical average lock. We've got 2 springs that hold that sidebar up and away until the finger pins meet the shear line. So there is a secondary shear line. We have the typical shear line of the average pin tumbler lock, and then you also have these finger pins on the side that interact and engage with the side milling on the key itself. And that's some of the differences between Schlage Primus and Schlage Everest. Everest only has a check pin in the back in most cases. Schlage Primus has all cuts. I believe there's 5 different cuts for the finger pins. And then the finger pins come out. When they're all lined up correctly, the sidebar is allowed to fall into that void, and you meet your secondary shear line. That's what makes these extremely difficult to pick. I do believe that there have been some videos out there. However, running into one of these locks out in the wild and actually being able to pick it would be a completely different thing, I personally believe. Now we're going to rebuild the lock cylinder. We've removed the top pins and the springs, and I'm now rebuilding it and inserting those back in. Now we're going to take a look at that sidebar. This is what makes the lock very, very, very pick resistant, and to where you have to have specialized key blanks with that custom side milling to actually open them. Now we're going to put the finger pin springs back in their position, and the finger pin as well. With Schlage Primus, the cuts coincide with the depth of the finger pins, so the sidebar pattern doesn't change. The pins and the way they engage with the key, much like they engage with the cuts on the top of the key, these engage with the cuts on the side of the key. And a tip for rekeying, it helps to hold the finger pins in place, because they're going to try and dump out of there, and then they're going to try and jump out when you try and load the key pins in as well. However, if you insert the key and engage the finger pins in the side milling, then it holds it in place so you can continue to put springs and load the finger pins in their place. Now you can begin to see the added complexity of this lock with all of the additional springs, the additional pins, the additional milling in the side of the key. It definitely is a significant step above a conventional pin tumbler lock. Finishing loading the rest of those finger pins in place. And then we take a look at the finger pins, making sure that they line up in the center for the sidebar, allowing the sidebar to fall into that particular void. And the springs hold the sidebar out until it lines up, and then you put rotation on the plug and the sidebar collapses into the plug. Now we load the key pins back in their place, and be ultra careful to slide the plug in correctly, and put the last screw in along with the tailpiece or drive cam. And now you have successfully rekeyed or taken apart and reassembled the Schlage Primus and all of its wonderful moving parts. Since we're rekeying locks, let's go ahead and compare that process and field stripping along with rekeying down to a profile cylinder. This is a profile cylinder that carries a Schlage SC keyway or a Schlage Classic keyway, and it gets rebuilt from the top. You simply take an Allen head and remove the top Allen head screw, dump all of the pins and springs out. So these rekey just a little bit different than a conventional cylinder, but as you can see, nowhere near as complex as that Schlage Primus cylinder. Here again, we'll show how the cylinder gets completely dumped out. You dump all of the pins and all of the springs out, and then insert a new different key blank with different bitting, and go ahead and put the key pins in first, then followed by a top pin and followed by the top spring and the Allen head screw. Here we're going to rekey a typical cylinder, again, just a regular Schlage classic keyway. We've got to shim this one open. We apparently didn't have a key, and we're just going to replace the 5 top pins. These locks all have 5 pins instead of 6 pins as well, and then just reinstall the cap screw in the tailpiece, and you're done. This was one of the last safes that I moved, a 2,800 pound safe that was high security and needed to get moved, and unfortunately we are now done with moving safes. Here we've got a overhead garage door that is all sorts of jammed up, and we decided to try and repair and fix this. As you can see, that cable was busted on the unit here, and then you can also see how the track on this is completely twisted and bent. We have all sorts of problems going on.
Alright, so we've disconnected the spring from the bottom and then wound the cable around a few times. And then we'll have to try and put some tension on the cable and then get it back on that stud down there, which is always a joy and pain in the butt.
Oh boy, we got a lot of fun here. So you can see how twisted this portion is here. Like if we look down like this, no, the camera really doesn't do it justice, unfortunately. Basically, this whole thing is basically just twisted out, probably a good 20 degrees or so. So that's not good. And then that's probably being caused by you can see it up there, that cable is all spooled up and balled up there. So the cable came undone and then caused this whole thing to kind of cock out of alignment here. So that's one thing that we got to fix that's going to be fun. And then the other thing is over here we've got a chain. This will be the easier of the two things to fix. See how the chain is sitting over here and it's not actually moving anything. So if we move this, it's spinning the motor and it's spinning everything, but it's not driving the actual chain. So we just got to put the chain back on that one. That one should be fairly easy. So here we are up on the ladder. And there you can see that's the chain. And that's where it needs to go. Over here. Pretty simple fix, probably. Simply pop the chain back on the gear and rotate the other chain, and you're good to go. Alright. Get the chain back on. And took some of the slack out of it. This pulley is also bent in a lot, okay? So that was causing it to have that space. And so if we didn't bend the pulley back, then it would have just fell right off again. So I believe this is gonna work good now. We'll test it out and we'll see. You like it?
What?
Okay, run it back up.
Yeah, that whole pulley was bent. So we just bent it back and then put the chain back on, and I think you're good to go, my friend. Good.
I also test the unit out as well. So I test it and then get the manager to test it after I do. Now we have an emergency break-in that the burglars were able to break through the security laminate on this glass door. As you can see right here, they were able to just cut right through it and get inside and do a tremendous amount of damage. Here is a picture of the glass cases. Again, it's got that lamination on the glass, so it kind of holds it together, but unfortunately the security film did not hold everything together or prevent them from actually accessing the jewelry itself. Then you can see, in order to get these out, I've got to take these screws out. There's screws down in that track frame, so we've got to get to those screws. Just start removing the screws by sliding the glass panels back and forth. Again, we normally don't do a lot of glass work, but this was an emergency situation. They really needed somebody to come help clean everything up after the officers did their investigation and took all of their evidence. They needed to get rid of all the broken glass, so I told them that I'd be willing to do so because we live in a very small town, and I knew that there would not be a glass company that would be willing to come out and help them with this. I know they're going to be all closed, and they wouldn't be able to help until Monday for the most part. So we were really just out there trying to help alleviate the situation and at least get it to a point where the glass company could take over and do their job. So the first thing is to make sure we get all of the broken glass and broken cabinets out of the way and then get everything cleaned up. This Milwaukee 18-volt shop vac proved to be extremely useful for this particular job. It's the size and power of a heavy-duty regular shop vac, but it's also cordless and 18-volt. Then we were able to get all of the glass using these specialty attachments out of the cases, as you can see here, and then it did a great job of cleaning up everything on the floor. This was really more about getting things cleaned up and tidied up than anything else. Then we went over to the hardware store and had a board cut down to the size of the back door. What we needed to do here is take the exit device off the door because the 5/8 plywood, I wanted to use a very thick, heavy-duty plywood because this is all that's going to protect the door until the glass can actually be replaced. So we were moving the door closer up, and we've got it boarded up on the outside as well for double protection. Now we're going to be installing a Yale Assure Lock 2. First step is to take off the original lock. That was mechanical lock. Take that off and out of the way, clean out all the spiders and cobwebs, and then remove the old bolt as well, so we have a clean canvas to start working on. And then I like to lay all of my parts out so I can see everything that we have. I start by installing the deadbolt bolt and make sure that it's in the correct back set. 2 3/8 was the correct back set on this one. Then they give us all these different screws for different thicknesses of doors. We use the 2 wood screws to mount the bolt in place. There's the Yale bolt mounted. And we check with a flathead screwdriver to make sure that the bolt opens and locks freely. As you can see here, it is now in the locked position and it is now being retracted back to the retracted position. Next, I'm going to put the keypad portion on the outside, make sure that the wire is ran underneath the bolt, and then make sure that the tailpiece is in the correct timing position so that when you add the back plate, it actually works and rotates and locks the bolt. Here is the access chip that will have to be installed into the lock itself after the fact, and then there are the 2 mounting screws that actually mount and hold this lock in place to the back plate. Here's what the lock looks like on the inside where the batteries go, and there is that little sensor or that chip that gets plugged into it that basically makes it a smart lock. Then the wire gets plugged into the circuit board and the final cover goes on, and you are now done with the installation portion of the lock. You can see that there are no keypad portions lit up now, and now the number 1 is lit up. As you start programming the lock, it will form a circle and all of the numbers will be lit up, as you can see here. And then the customer takes over and starts bringing it to their phone and pairing it with their phone. Here's the sensor, the door position sensor installed. Now, I just wanted to take a picture of this because I have not seen a key worn out or break like this, so I just wanted to throw that in there for you because I thought it was a little fun. Next, we've got different jobs. Sometimes you have to play tow truck driver when you're the owner of your own company. Now, I didn't want to pay the $250 plus to have this truck towed down to the dealership so that they could do a warranty on it. There was an airbag recall on this particular model, so just showing you that we do more than just locksmith stuff. Here is a key for a multi-lock. As you can see, the cylinder is spinning freely, and this was the complaint that was called in by the manager to the National Service Provider, NSP company, or Facility Maintenance Company. So the cylinder just spins and spins and spins. And if you know anything about locksmithing, that would be because the set screw that you can see in the bottom of that little hole where this screwdriver is pointed is not set properly. It backed off. So there are two little holes to hold the thumb turn and the cylinder in there. And once that's tightened up, it's a little difficult to do one-handed. But you can see that if I use my thumb, my fingers, and my knee, I can lock the handle in place and I can unlock the handle as well. Now this system has been repaired and fixed by tightening a set screw. This manager was on site, and getting him to sign the paperwork here is all part of the job with your national service providers or facility maintenance companies. So this door closer had some issues. It's locking up right here. There's an issue with the back check valve, I'm guessing. I don't know exactly what is the actual problem with this particular piece, but it was very intermittent. It would open up freely sometimes, and then it would just completely lock up. So customers were actually getting injured because they would go to push on the door, it would begin to push open, and then it would stop, and they would literally run into the door. So this was one of those cases where I thought maybe there was too much preload put on it. Maybe it wasn't installed properly and they simply had too much preload put on it. I repositioned the arm, but unfortunately that did not work. I also opened and closed all of the valves, and that did not work either. So once all of those options had failed, we came to the conclusion that this door closer simply needed to be replaced. So we did exactly that. Pull the old door closer off and pop the new door closer in. If it's the same brand or manufacturer, hopefully it has the same bolt holes and positions, that's great. If not, you may need to do a full installation. All right, so door closer now replaced. Door comes open, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to shot. There you go. Have a good day. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Freeman Manufacturing, Precision Tools for the Locksmith Professional. Okay, so the store manager handed me this lock cylinder here. Obviously it goes right in there, so we've got yet another set screw issue, and we can access it right there on the side. Easy peasy. Getting the cylinder to slide back in. Doing it one-handed can be a little bit difficult. Even doing it with two hands can be a little difficult if it's misaligned, but a tip is to have the key in hand and then also loosen up the entire Adams Rite deadbolt assembly so that it has a little room to move back and forth. And then now you can see I'm tightening it all the way down, and much like a wheel bearing or a wheel nut in automotive industry, you basically tighten it, or I tighten it all the way and then back it off a turn or a half a turn, and then set the set screw in. I like to set the set screw a little bit, wiggle the cylinder back and forth, self-center it. When I'm using two hands, I'll actually do this process at the exact same time to kind of wiggle that set screw into the very, very center. I'll also make sure that I check the other set screw as well, because there's a good chance that if this one came loose, the other one probably came loose as well. So I want to make sure that both stay nice and tight. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert the key and make sure that the key is functioning and working and making the deadbolt operate smoothly as well from both sides, and make sure that it's working on both sides and that both cylinders are now working properly.
Go right on in. Thanks, hon.
Go ahead and pull the door shut and lock it up like you would if you were locking up for the evening, or however you'd normally do it.
All right.
Do the whole 9 for me. Okay, and then make sure that it's locked.
It is.
Beautiful. And try it from the outside too. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right,
Got
come
trouble
on
with the
in.
door, huh?
Yeah. Happy? I always make sure that the manager or the customer tries the lock. Hey everyone, this is Wayne here with Pacific Lock Company and PAC-BLU by PAC Lock. This is a Pelican case demo unit that you can literally have in your van or in your shop. You could set this up in your shop, but really within the Pelican case unit, you can actually send this out with your technician. I have used this system and been able to sell it right on the spot because I had this directly right in my truck ready to go. I'm going to show you what's inside here real quick. You just pop these little clips. It's a very compact, very eye-catching little unit, and as soon as you pull it out, you really have your customer's attention. It has this laminated portion here so you can tell them all about the features, and this is the easiest to install hardwired electronic access system on the market, hands down. This is your power supply. It's this big. It's the size of a pack of cards or a deck of cards, for crying out loud. This is your power supply, and this is your reader. It communicates with your phone app so that you can actually operate the unit. And if people ask, well, there's no keypad on the outside, there's no reader on the outside, there's no credential reader, it's a clean installation. And you can literally show them how this works just by using the external device right here. This pops off and allows you to add a 9-volt battery. So if your customer asks you, hey, what happens if the power goes out on my building? How do I actually operate this system? Well, you hook that 9-volt battery up right to this right here. You could install it on the outside just like a mechanical key override, and then your blue light will come on, and you can literally show them how their system would work. Here's the button on the back to go ahead and release. And you can also show them how the app works. You can connect this to your phone, to your text phone. They can show how the app works. They push the button, it unlocks, or you can show them how the button works right here. Okay, super easy, super clean, super cool, and it shows them, it gives them an idea of how this system works right in their hand. Okay, so this is the electronic strike version that they're going to give you with the 9-volt battery. The other one, they're going to give you a magnetic locking system. It's going to plug directly into your transformer. We could plug this into the 9-volt battery unit too, but I actually have this set up to where it's plugged right into power. So you literally just grab your power cord, and this is, instead of hiring an electrician and having a power supply, that's all you do. Then it brings the light on to blue. As you can see here, click. You show them that the magnetic lock works. Just like that, the mag lock works right there. And then when you hit the button on the app, click, and the magnet comes off. Okay, power comes back on, magnet sticks back on. You can literally put this in your customer's hands, let them touch it, let them feel it, let them see it, and it looks awesome. It looks like it's new and fresh and secure more than anything else, with no external keypad. This is the future of electronic access. For more information, check out the website below. Please call or email your supplier and ask them for the Pacific Lock Company's PAC-BLU system, and ask them for this demo case right here so that you can show this to your customers and start selling this today. You can also get monthly recurring revenue from products like this, because there's a monthly subscription that goes along with it that you can actually get a piece of, so you can earn money long term. Every time you sell one of these systems, you get monthly recurring revenue for your business and your company. Thanks for watching. Check out PAC Lock.
Okay, so just so you know how these doors operate, you have to shut the door, you gotta lift up on the handle. I recommend lifting up twice because the vertical linkage goes up and down. That's why you have these little tabs here and here. And then you lock the deadbolt here. Then you can feel that it's locked. Then to unlock, you unlock the deadbolt portion on the bottom, and then the door opens. Same way on the outside. You lift up. I recommend lifting up twice. And then you take your key. And you rotate. And make sure you have to go 360 degrees twice. Okay? Then it's locked. And then to unlock, the same thing, 360 degrees, 360 degrees again, and then it opens. So up, handle twice, 360, 360 degrees twice, and then you come back and pull the key.
Request, all set.